When Dino De Laurentiis announced that he would produce a modern-day remake of King Kong, it sent waves through both Hollywood and the international film scene. And there was one company in particular that had their ears to the ground, and one that's synonymous with the scattergun approach to filmmaking, and that is the Shaw Brothers. And in 1977, a mere year after the Dino De Laurentiis' King Kong was released in the States, they had their own take on the story. And when the Shaw Brothers tackle a challenge, even a giant gorilla is not gonna stop them. They quickly produced one of the greatest film knockoffs in film history. One that has tiger wrestling, quicksand, remember when that was a thing? And also Utam, the king of the orangutans. This is the Mighty Peking Man, also known as Utam. Directed by the incredibly prolific Ho Meng-hua, this became one of the last features in his incredibly long filmography. Since joining the Shaw Brothers, Ho Meng-hua directed over 50 films for them, sometimes even 2 to 3 per year. And through these years of practice and know-how, he ended up throwing everything he'd learned into what would be his grand opus, The Mighty Peking Man. And if you're familiar with the Shaw Brothers at all, you probably know that this film was presented in their trademark Shaw Scope aspect ratio, one that you'd probably know was recreated beautifully in Quentin Tarantino's Kill Bill duology. The Shaw Scope aspect ratio is less of a widescreen and more of a really intense letterbox. It may sound weird, but it works perfectly, and in this film it just looks glorious the entire way through. As movie remakes were relatively unheard of at the time, it sent waves of anticipation through the industry. Not only was Meng-hua an absolute genius behind the camera, but he also had a very keen eye for the use of special effects, and this was mainly evident in one of his earlier films, Black Magic, which meddled in the Jianxi, which we talked about last time. Incorporating Toho's patented suitmation technique, which is just a fancy way of saying dude in a suit, he also used some groundbreaking techniques which were used in the previous year's Inframan that came out through Shaw Brothers. So when it became known that Meng-hua was throwing his hat into the already oversaturated Kongsploitation genre, yeah, Kongsploitation, that's a thing, it was no real surprise to anybody, but what audiences didn't expect was that he'd just make a great homage to the OG monster film, but also a superbly crafted film in its own right. And if imitation is the most sincere form of flattery, then The Mighty Peking Man is totally unabashed in its on-the-nose inspiration. Whereas King Kong took us well into its 100-minute runtime to show us the creature, and then there was the 2005 Peter Jackson version, which took even longer, The Mighty Peking Man appears here right off the bat. And the audience is now gifted with this glorious sequence that incorporates tricky editing as Utam flattens an entire Himalayan village. And if the Kongsploitation genre has taught us anything, it's that King Kong is King Horndog, and he must find the most beautiful blonde woman he can. And The Mighty Peking Man is no exception here. So when Chen, our titular hero, is abandoned deep in dangerous territory, in swings Samantha. Swinging in a skimpy animal skin bikini, she looks like she's come straight from a Playmates photo shoot. It's here when Chen meets Utam that he has the brilliant idea to strap the creature to a ship and send him all the way to Hong Kong for all to see. But as you can expect, his boss has other plans here, and as Charles Denham had his Broadway show, this is less of that and more of a giant spectacle. This is an entire stadium filled with people showing off Utam's might. But this spectacle quickly devolves into a scene of torture, where they're essentially testing the creature's pain threshold by hurling spears at him. And this is when Chen and Samantha repent for their actions and realize that they must save Utam at all costs. One of the funny things I realised when researching this film is that it didn't get much of a home video release in the 1970s. It wasn't until the resurgence of monster movies with Godzilla and also Mighty Joe Young in 1998 that the film found a release through Quentin Tarantino's Rolling Thunder Productions. So if you make a film like this, and you end up missing your window of opportunity, just wait 20 years because your audience will come all the way back round again. And what's nearly 20 years from 1998? Well, it's Skull Island and also this review. So maybe we'll see a Blu-ray release sometime in 2017 or 2018. Wait a second. Let's see. Can't be.